Perfect. Perfect.
What's up, YouTube? It's Jerome Parker, aka Master Shake here, and today I am going to finally break down in depth how I became a software engineer. Now, before we get started, I want to remind everyone to please hit that like bell and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and has my video helped be recommended to other people, and it really helps out this channel grow and succeed. So, I have answered this question in increments over previous videos and on various podcasts, but I don't think I've actually done a video on this channel explaining my journey into software engineering. So I decided to go ahead and give you all what you have been asking me for and break it down starting from the age of 8 all the way to now as a 28, almost 29-year-old software engineering entrepreneur. So it all starts back in Louisville, Kentucky, when I was 8 years old in the year 2000. I know, seems like forever ago, literally 20 years. Anyway, my mother at the time was going to school for IT degree. She is a project manager now. So while she was in school for her project management IT degree, she had to take a couple programming classes. Now, mind you, at this time, I'm in 3rd grade, and I was an avid reader. In fact, I had a 12th grade reading level at this time. So my mother, we had, I don't know, I can't really remember what happened after she had came home from somewhere. I don't know if it was school, work, what have you. She had asked me to do something. I think it was clean my room or something. I wasn't listening, so she decided to give me a punishment. The punishment was being I had to clean the bookshelf. Now, mind you, this bookshelf had all of her college textbooks in addition to all the books that we read as a household on this bookshelf. So I threw a tantrum, being the little brat that I was, and I knocked off all of the books from the bookshelf and they fell on the floor. And the book that fell on top was a Deedle and Deedle Learning Java. I believe it was 2nd edition or 3rd edition. I actually have a photo of it on my Instagram if you follow my Instagram at MasterShake08. But this book fell on top, and the cover, it looked like these ants, well, were these ants, but they were like animated. It kind of looked like they were dancing, and it was like a music thing. It was really cool. And I remember thinking that it was like a book, comic book, or some sort of kid's book, but it was like this thick. So like I open it up and I'm reading, and it starts talking about computer science and computer programming and this thing called Java and how people use it to make all sorts of things, including video games. Now, that is what piqued my interest because I loved video games and I wanted to make video games. And before this book, I didn't know who made video games. So this book had introduced me into, a computer programmer. They're the ones who make games. All right, cool. I want to be a computer programmer. So we had an old Gateway PC. Well, new at the time, old now. And it had Java and everything installed on there because obviously my mother was taking the class and had to have the stuff for her homework. So we already had this computer, had everything installed. I had this book, and I have a 12th grade reading level. So I just literally read the book and followed the instructions. It took me about a year, and I taught myself Java, object-oriented Java. So fast forward, I'm 9, and at this time I have a younger brother. He is 5 years younger than me, so he's about 4. And this is around the first time we go out to Oakland, California. Now, my brother's dad is from Oakland. After him and my mother separated, he moved back to California, and we started flying out there, once a year basically. So I always say I grew up, part of my life in California, because you can count all the years. I pretty much spent, 2-3 years going out to California if you count all the months combined. So he was a network and IT engineer. and he dealt more with hardware, setting up networks, and he was the one who procured my love for hardware. We built computers together. We tore apart computers together. He taught me about, basics of networking, setting up LANs, et cetera, et cetera. He was a utility god. He had a utility for everything. And he would always just show me this software, like this, open source software to do X, Y, and Z. This is back in the Windows XP Service Pack days. So, I have my software. I have Big Brandon teaching me hardware and networking. I'm just hacking away, building my mom had got me a robotic kit. It was like a little spider robot. I remember I had, figured out, do some reverse engineering on it, got to do some things that it wasn't really supposed to do based on the manual. That was my first intro to reverse engineering. Like I said, I started building networks. I was figuring out things like how to create Wi-Fi extenders out of Pringles cans to extend the Wi-Fi signal so I could, be in the garage and still do my stuff without, losing connection, all sorts of stuff. So fast forward till I'm 14. I'm a freshman in high school at Louisville Male High School. I have found out, how to start a business by getting an EIN and, registering with the state. An old head put me on to it, and I started my first business, Shakespeare Solutions. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it's my main business to this day. It has gone through a lot of changes. We started off doing hardware, and then we evolved into software, and now we evolved into services. But it was my first baby, and it is by far my most successful one. So when I was in high school, I started Shakespeare Solutions, and I was doing PC repair. That was it. This is before I was even doing websites. I was doing MySpace pages and stuff like that. But I wasn't offering really that as a service. I was kind of just doing it for the homies. But I was really comfortable with fixing computers and fixing phones and printers. And when at school, they would call me over the PA and call me out of class to come to the auditorium to fix the projector because it's not working during a senior assembly, stuff like that. So that is how I really built up my base. Around this time, this is when Android at first came out. So my friend had a G1. If everybody remembers, that's the first Google phone with Android. Started learning Android, didn't really like it. iOS was also out. I had been out about a year and a half. I think came out when I was like 13. So yeah, it's been about a year. I didn't really mess with iOS because I didn't have a Mac at the time. But I was keeping up with the developments, fell in love with Android. By the time I turned 18, I had about 11 or so clients in the Louisville area who I was getting repeat business from, and I decided to attend the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. So I go to Lexington, everything's cool. I was bored out of my mind because all these intro to programming classes, I was doing this when I was 8 and 9, 10. So I wasn't really going to class. In fact, class was interfering with my business because, one, when I moved from Louisville to Lexington, I lost all my clients because most of my clients were on a face-to-face basis. I'm updating, backing up their computer. This is before cloud. Cloud is just emerging at this time. So I'm still doing physical backups on hard drives. I'm doing this stuff like weekly, monthly, stuff like that. So a lot of my business at this time was still personal, face-to-face. So I lost all that business when I moved to Lexington to go to college. So I spent a lot of time when I wasn't on campus trying to find new clientele. Eventually, built that up. I got to the point where I'm doing more traveling and work than I am spending time in school. So actually my grades suffered. I actually remember I was taking a web programming class, and my teacher told me that I should not be a web developer. I shouldn't be a computer scientist because I was getting pretty much an F because I wasn't there because I was in Cincinnati doing web programming contracts. So I remember I was mad, but I also laughed, and then I dropped out of school the next week because it just wasn't worth it. End up getting married that summer. End up having my wife got pregnant that summer. So first child's on the way. I'm not in school anymore. I'm taking some contracts, doing what I have to do. I end up getting approached for a job out in California. It was a contract. So I passed the rounds for the interviews, got offered the contract, gave up, it terminated my lease and everything, moved all my stuff to California, which I was really happy because all my brother's family is in California, as I said before. So, I was really excited because I've always wanted to move to the Bay. 2 days before I'm supposed to fly out, I get called saying that they decided that they don't want to work with contractors anymore, and they're canceling my contract. They're only working with their internal team at the moment. So I have a newborn, got a wife, all my stuff's on the way to California, and I got no job. And so I was really scared. Went out there, basically marketed my ass off, and I ended up getting a position at a contract at a game company, Kabam, in San Francisco. It was actually at the original Twitter headquarters is where they moved into when Twitter moved to their new headquarters. So I got to California. I'm working at a video game company, and I got a contract through my company. So I'm like, I'm really excited, really happy. That contract was supposed to be for 3 months. I knocked it out in 4 weeks. They were happy, but now now my contract ended. At this time, I was interviewing with Facebook and Sephora. I ended up getting the position at Sephora. I'm sorry, skirt before Sephora. My last day at Kabam, I interviewed with Apple as a senior engineer, and I got the position. So I had a week vacay. Then the following week, I'm at Apple. I don't know how I skipped Apple, but anywho. So I'm at Apple. I'm at the Sunnyvale office. It's literally 10 minutes from the Cupertino headquarters. I'm on the mobile apps team, which is the team that is responsible for building and maintaining the App Store app. And I was a senior software DevOps engineer. So what does that mean? It means I was a senior software engineer who wrote DevOps tools. There you go. Was the youngest on the team. I was 21 at the time. Was the only black person on the team. And that was probably the most stressful and racist position I've ever been at. But that's a whole other video for a whole other time. Bright side, I had Apple on my resume. So, left Apple, and when I left Apple and I sent out my updated resume, things just went crazy because I was getting a whole bunch of calls before. I was getting about 20 to 30 jobs thrown at me. People wanted me to interview with them a week. After Apple, I'm literally getting, sometimes I was getting 80 to 90 a week. My inbox still has tens of thousands of unread emails, and most of them are, job related in some form or fashion. But the one that really piqued my interest was for Sephora. There's this company, Wendy Gap. The CEO, Brad, hit me up, and he was like, I really like you, and I really think you would be great with my team at Sephora. And I was like, can I work with my company? Can I be a subcontract? They said, of course. I'm in at Sephora at the main headquarters on Market Street in San Francisco. This is where they do all the planning. This is where all the models come to do their photo shoots. This is where the IT team is, and I was on the Store of the Future team, which we were the team responsible for creating prototypes for the new technology in the store. So this is things such as we working on Bluetooth beacons. So like if you have a Sephora app and you walk past a Bluetooth beacon, it would give you a personalized coupon that you would expire at 5-10 minutes. You're like, get this lipstick now and get extra 20% off, something like that. Internal geolocation, micro geolocation for like inside the store, so they know where people are in the store and how long they're staying there, et cetera, et cetera. I worked on predictive analytics, so we can figure out what people are going to like actually be getting work, and how much they're going to be spending, what stores they're going to go to, et cetera, et cetera. Sephora was hands down my favorite contract, and I was there for about 2 years. At this time, my wife's pregnant with our second child, and we moved back to Kentucky to have the baby. Everything was great for a while, and then the Sephora contract ended. At this point, I was still paying for my condo in Hayward, California, and I was flying back and forth between Kentucky and California every few weeks, which was fine while I was making California money living in Kentucky. But once the contract ended, in my contracts, I had multiple contracts at this point actually, and had a couple engineers who I was subcontracting. But within a week, all of them went away, and I lost a lot of money, and it was really hard for a while, like really hard. Like some days didn't eat hard. And one day, I get a call. It's like 6:45 in the morning, and it's from this number in Indiana. And I normally wouldn't have answered it, but something told me to answer that phone call, so I did. It was this woman, and she was a secretary for this company, and they were like, are you a software developer? We heard your name. And I'm like, yes. And they said they need a payment processing system custom made for their medical billing facility. And I was like, okay. And they asked if I could drive to them right now. They'll pay for my gas, they'll pay for my time, and they'll pay for the consultation. So how can I turn this down? I'm struggling. Go over to Indiana, end up writing them a Stripe app. We make a contract, they pay me to write the app, and I get 1 to 10% based on the type of transaction. That one app from day one started making money. And it was making enough money that I was paying all my bills. To date, and it's only been a couple years, to date the app has made almost $600,000. And, I get variable percentage of that. That was the first time that I experienced residual income through something that I had created. And it was very addictive. From that point, that's when I kind of decided that I don't really want to go back to corporate America. I want to do my own thing. So I started writing apps, and with the main focus of monetization. I was doing web apps, mobile apps, APIs. My GitHub has 200-something applications on there. Most of them are very micro. They only do one thing, but I'll learn very quickly you only need to do one thing to make money. And the freedom that came with that was great. Now, I worked with some cannabis startups. I worked with a whole bunch of different startups in healthcare, cars, all sorts of stuff. But I always just did it just enough to pay the bills, so I could focus on my other endeavors. And now, fast forward to 2018. My wife and I split up. For those of you who do follow the channel, you may or may have not seen my earlier videos discussing that and the situation with my children and how that affected me and my work. But all things now are good. See, my family, her and I, we have a cordial relationship, and I'm back on track with my company. But now, basically where I'm at now is I invest in apps and I create apps. And I invest in apps by acquiring apps that either already make money or they have the potential to make money very quickly. So what I'll do is I'll buy an app, And because I am a developer, I buy an app that's built into technology. One of the requirements is that's built into technology that I am able to work with, and I work with a lot of technology, so that's usually not a problem. And then I'll estimate how much time it would take to either update the app, or sometimes the app doesn't even need updating. You just need a really good marketing campaign. So I've done that for a while, bought and sold a few apps, kept some, made some, and then I decided to create an investment group, and that is what the CodeLife investment group is. By the way, there's a link in the description to join the investment group. But basically, what we do is we pool our money together using group economics. We buy these apps, and then we share the money. Dividends paid out twice a year. And first round of dividends goes out next month on November 15th. And I'm really excited to see how this goes. Our first acquisition was an e-commerce site from Africa called RV Trendy. There's also a link in the description below. We make merchandise, different merchandise from clothing to posters to face masks, and with the goal of changing things every few weeks to keep up with the times. Hence RV Trendy. Real value trendy is what it stands for. But basically, this is where I'm at now. I am very happy. My money time balance is, I couldn't really think of it to be any better. I've been working remotely now for the last 5 years. Most of my money comes from apps that I have made myself. And when I'm not doing that, I'm doing consultations, I'm doing the YouTube, I'm blogging, or I'm just chilling, living my life. So I really implore a lot of developers, every developer actually, whether you're working for a company or not working for a company, or trying to find your first job, you should look into making multiple streams of income, because you have the skill set to do it. So why make a company rich when you can put the same amount of time in and pay yourself for life? Anyway, this is Jerome Parker. This is how I got into software engineering, and this is where I'm at now. If you have not liked the video, please like it, share it, subscribe, help me out with the YouTube algorithm. If you have any questions, or you want me to cover another topic in my journey, please comment below. And remember to follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter. Everything at MasterShake08. Talk to you all later. Goodbye.